Good evening. It is 7 o'clock, actually 6 minutes past, so we apologize for the slight delay. A number of people asked if they had to be here at 7 o'clock, and while we said to them basically no, you can show up anytime from 7 to 9. So anyone who walks in at 5 minutes to 9, we're just going to say doesn't get credit for being here at all, okay? But anyone who's here at 7, it has to leave at 7:30, quarter of 8, fine. All right, tonight's open meeting is going to be a little bit different than the prior ones. Once again, I will be the host, and Jeannie and Milton will assist us. When the last public meeting went down, we had a lot of questions that were being asked, and we hadn't done the walk in the borough. During our walk, we ran across a lot of people who had questions about specifics in our plan, specifics about the borough. So what happened was I was unable to make the 17th, which was the date set by the League of Women Voters for a normal debate, which they have for the candidates. So we were not able to do that. We offered this night to the League of Women Voters for them to run the meeting and to have an exchange of ideas, etc. They formally declined, which is their prerogative, so the meeting reverted back to us in the format. We've changed the format a little bit because on the last signs, if you remember at the bottom, it said no finger pointing, no politics, no whatever, and people were laughing about that. So tonight what we're trying to do is give you answers. Fill in the blanks, if you will. It's been a lot of information going back and forth on the Facebook pages, the websites with respect towards what we plan on doing, how we plan on doing it, whether or not it can be done. So hopefully tonight, with the assistance of Jeannie and Milton, and maybe some others that are more knowledgeable in the audience than we are, with respect to this, we'll be more than happy to try to answer some questions. We do have some additional information which we were able to receive as a direct result of articles that were published online. So we can fill in some of the blanks that we couldn't do before. So as we go through tonight, Milton, where are you hiding? Would you give us the agenda? Milton was insistent that we have an agenda for this evening. So voila. We're going to have a little welcome to the public meeting. We're going to discuss the issues of the administrative aspects of the meeting, and then we're going to move into a review and then outstanding issues, etc. So covering the administrative, obviously the restrooms are in the back. How many people have never been in the firehouse upstairs here before? Awesome. Okay? I don't think so, but that's okay. Ones in the back are being smart. Restrooms are there. There's emergency doors there, emergency door in the back, plus the stairs right over here for you. The great news is we should have enough firemen here that if you have a problem, they'll help carry you downstairs. How easy is that tonight? Okay? Item number 2, as always, the meeting is being recorded. If you prefer not to be recorded, once again, just push your chair towards the back over there. We're going to keep the focus with respect towards the people in the audience over here. Another change we made was we put a microphone in the middle over there, so when people have questions, they can feel free to walk up, stand in line concept, and ask their questions, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. Okay? Once again, if we believe somebody else in the audience has more information, better information, we'll be more than happy to entertain letting them speak and address the group because it's an open public meeting. Okay, with those rules, everybody agree? Good. Outstanding. So we'll move forward with it. What we wanted to do was identify topics that residents have told us about in prior open public meetings and while we were walking. The big ones appear to be taxes, tax-exempt properties, the rug mill, YMCA, Petty Lake Bridge, transparency, outsourcing / shared services, sidewalk, the town infrastructure, safety, and police presence. Okay? So we can go down the list and we can address any one of them, or if there were other issues, we can address them a little bit later. So let's do by show of hands. How many people would like to start with taxes or tax-exempt properties? Raise your hand. Okay. How many would like to start with either the rug mill, the YMCA? Okay? Petty Lake Bridge. Transparency?
I think we go with taxes.
There we go. We got 3 of them, 4 of them now. Okay. How about outsourcing, shared services? Couple. Okay, good. Sidewalk, downtown infrastructure. And safety, police presence. Oh, we have a few. Okay, great. So I guess we're going to start with the taxes and the tax-exempt properties. In our plan, as everyone knows, we identified a number of figures, specifically 5. 2 of them dealt with tax issues, and 3 of them dealt with other. So the first one that we dealt with on tax, if you saw our handout, if you saw our signs, said 5.5% increase last year to this year on the municipal tax side. I don't think anyone argues the point because it's in the state site. It's a fact. There's been a lot of discussion with regards to why it costs 5.5. The second issue was we talked about the 43% increase over the last 8 years approximately. And while numbers have kicked around with 39%, 43%, whatever it might be, there's a large percentage increase in there. And there were several articles that were printed out with regards, and I think, Steve, you were one that wrote an article about the expenses that were associated with that, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I apologize. He wrote a nice article identifying the one-time shots, if you will, to the system that caused the problem for the expenditures during that period of time. Let's get back to the basics as far as I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the tax-exempt properties. At the present time, when you look at our tax bill for municipal tax bill, it's tied into the property tax bill. And this year, we just went over $5 million as far as municipal tax portion that's raised by property taxes for the budget. Now, that's based on 31%, according to the state, 31% of your property tax bill goes to the municipality. Now, to me, the big reason for that is the tax-exempt properties. So in our brochure, we made a promise. And one of the promises we've made is we've made a promise to reduce the municipal portion of your tax bill by 20% in 4 years. Now, rough math is if you have a $5 million budget and you're raising $5 million from taxable sources, which is the property tax, 20% of that would be $1 million. So the question is, how are we going to get $1 million from people other than property tax owners that are paying it right now? And our answer goes right back to the tax-exempt properties. According to the state of New Jersey, according to their site, they identify for us that there are 146,682,000 of tax-exempt properties on the books in Hightstown. There's taxable value, property tax, of $393,095,356 for a total of $539,777,356 worth of rateable, if you will, or value for the borough. Of that, we divided into the total, the tax-exempt property, and that's how we got the 27% versus the 37% that's on the state website. The state website said it's the percentage of tax-exempt properties versus the taxable properties. We felt that was inappropriate. We felt the proper way to do it was find out how much of the borough appraised value, if you will, is in point of fact tax-exempt. That's how we came up with the 27.2%. Now, if you take a look at the state site, you will also find out a couple of things that are exceedingly interesting. The first one of which is that in Hightstown, there is 6 parcels that are part of the public school system. They are assessed at $48,919,600, which makes up 33% 33.35% of the tax-exempt properties in the borough. Everyone keeps blaming Petty. Petty is a chunk of this. They're number 2 on the list, which is other schools, 10 parcels according to this, at $60,513,800. So together, the schools in the borough come up to 75% of the tax-exempt property in the borough. We are responsible in the unified school district called the East Windsor Regional School District for approximately 17% of the cost of the school district. And that's set by the state. And that feeds into our tax bill, which means that East Windsor is responsible for 83%. What's happened in the past is if you take the amount of property which is tax exempt in the East Windsor Regional School District, consisting of East Windsor and Hightstown, you get close to $113 million. When you take the $48,919,000, you get approximately 43% of the property which is tax exempt for the East Windsor Regional School District is in Hightstown. What that means is if this is in point of fact a shared service deal, we're subsidizing East Windsor 26% of the cost of the tax exempt burden, and we shouldn't be. Our plan is simple. Our plan is to go back to the state, get the state to validate that the regional school district, which was established approximately 30, 40 years ago, is a shared service agreement. Once the state identifies it's a shared service agreement, then we would, in point of fact, request that East Windsor pick up its portion of the shared service agreement in a back period of time of some sort. Do I expect Janice Mironoff to send us a check for between $400,000 and $440,000 a year for the last 5 years? My answer is no. Do I plan on sending her a bill? My answer is yes. Okay? We need to stand up. We need to basically say we are not the dumping ground for deals that were made half a century ago. Half a century ago, Hightstown was a lot larger proportional to the township. As the township has grown, they've dwarfed us in size, obviously, in population, obviously, and in value. For those of you who don't know it, the East Windsor Township appraisal is a shy over $3 billion value. And we are in the neighborhood of $540 million. So they're about 6 times our size. And when you sit down, you look at the other numbers, according to a comparison of Hightstown versus East Windsor, you find out that the other schools, the public school system in Hightstown is 33% of the tax-exempt property. In East Windsor, it's 32%. In other schools, we have 10, they have 3. Our value is $60,513,800 for 41.26% of our tax-exempt properties. They have 3. And their 3 equal $11,273,000 or 5.6% of the tax-exempt. Their total is less than $200 million for tax-exempt properties, and we are close to $150 million. They're 6 times our size. When you look at the numbers themselves, for example, churches and charities, there are 25 listed in the state in Hightstown with a value of $15,518,900, which is 10.58% of our tax-exempt. In all of East Windsor, under the same category, they have 19, which is only $10,785,000. We are, in point of fact, subsidizing East Windsor. When people talk about consolidation, and we'll let you up there in a second, Steve, no problem. When we talk about consolidation, which a lot of people would like to do, and we vote for consolidation, and East Windsor votes against consolidation, it's based on things like this. Why would they want us to be consolidated when, in point of fact, one of the big things is we are subsidizing their budget on an annual basis on an extensive level? We've got to stop it. So our concern, getting back to closing the gap, is we want to go to all tax-exempt properties and we want to talk to them about what they can do for the borough. We look at it from 4 separate categories. The first one is legal, the second is moral, third is ethical, and the fourth is fair. Does anyone in this room honestly believe that that relationship and those numbers are fair for Hightstown? No. Do you think it's ethical? Do you think it's moral? It may be some part of a legal argument, and I think we need to push the issue on that. Okay? We need to push the issue on that. If we get the state to concur that it is a shared service agreement, then we have the ability to collect. Okay? If it is not a shared service agreement, Tori, we'll be more than happy to ask the state what the hell we're supposed to do when we're subsidizing the other municipality.
It's called a regional school district.
Regional school district is by definition a shared service agreement. Look it up. Okay? Steve, feel free. Take it away.
Thanks, JP. You've enlightened us on a whole bunch of numbers. I'm not sure if this is working.
No, you got to turn it on.
We're good now, right?
Yep.
Now, thanks for all the information. It's probably the numbers were, I'm pretty good with numbers. Those were a lot of numbers. But let me simplify some things, and I hesitate to even bring up what I'm going to talk about. But I printed out a few cells off of the East Windsor Regional School District's website. So these are real numbers. Anyone can check them out. And if you want, I can send you what I have in my hand. This current year, Hightstown is paying 12.66% of the school district's tax bill. In total, there's $64,992,000 raised by property taxes that go to the schools combined for East Windsor and Hightstown. We pay 12.66%, and East Windsor's paying 87.34%. And again, this is right off their website, so I'm not, these are simple numbers. And I can tell you, in the 5 years that are listed on the website, 5 years, Hightstown's portion of taxes, school taxes, have gone up $12,076 off the website. East Windsor's contribution has increased over the same 5-year period by $4,701,000. So I do appreciate your commentary, and I'm almost, like I said, hesitant to talk here because if we go and scream too loudly, this relationship, we might be paying more here. And I think we can all agree we pay enough already. And my concern is, and I have no, great statistics, a lot of stuff, but I'm not sure how well that's going to play anywhere with the state, because this is a relationship that most school districts have. It's on assessed valuation and equalized valuation. So I think we have been treated somewhat fairly under a very, very difficult circumstance. Like I said, I live in a town. My property taxes are over $12,000 a year, as my neighbors will attest to who are here. They're all paying approximately what I'm paying. No one's happy about it, but there are certain things that legally that's the deal. And our portion again, it's on the website. Our portion of school taxes has decreased every year over the 5-year period. So I'm not sure how far we'll go, and I would just say to folks, and I give JP a lot of credit, and you know he's worked hard on this. Don't anticipate that this will have an impact on your property taxes in the near future. If we go, you know, the deal in Princeton University, the Township of Princeton did not sue the university. It was 30 individuals. It took 5 years for them to come to an agreement. 5 years. And it was a totally different situation and circumstance than we have today, the relationship between Hightstown and, let's say, Penny. Princeton has a revenue stream. They have engineering and science people working, and they have patents. They sell that stuff. So they were sued in the fact that they were producing revenue, and the Township of Princeton felt that that was a business and they wanted a piece of it. So they got something for it. That relationship doesn't exist. And like I said, the borough's property taxes that went to the school district over the last 5 years, it's basically flat. I mean, we're talking 12 grand. In East Windsor, 4.7 million increase. These are real numbers. These are easy numbers. They're on the website, East Windsor Regional School District. Simple. If we sue, we'll go after them. Don't expect a quick, oh sure, here's your money. It's not. It's a hard battle. We're not going to win, but I do appreciate the effort.
Thank you very much, Steve. I just want to respond to that, if that's okay with the group.
Yeah.
And my response is simple. Steve is referring to what is referred to as the operational budget of the school district. And he's correct on the operational budget of the school district. We're referring to the taxable portion. Now, we are, in point of fact, getting a raw deal on the taxable because we have, for the last 15 to 17 years, since Janice Murnoff has been mayor of East Windsor, while all of our communities around us have been building schools, the East Windsor Regional School District has decided not to build any new schools and to keep the 3 and 3 in the school district. So we've added on to all the schools in the system, but we have not built any new ones because they would have to be built where? East Windsor. That would change the dynamics. What we're referring to is 2 separate components. Steve is correct with his numbers on the operational budget. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. The problem I'm talking about is a disproportionate feed with respect towards the tax impact of the tax-exempt property that we're carrying the burden on. I'm not afraid to go to East Windsor and say, there are agreements. I'll give you an example. And if I'm wrong on this, we'll dig up the paperwork and go through it. The council, Larry's not here tonight, is he? Okay, no. Generally, when Larry's here, I give him a mic and let Larry talk, which is fine. I believe that East Windsor and Hightstown have an agreement on the, it's not old age, it's elderly center, which is located in East Windsor.
Senior Center.
Senior center, thank you very much, appreciate it. Probably a senior moment on my part, and that's okay too.
Oh, that's okay. Some of us are old.
So it's a senior center. We pay East Windsor a percentage or a fee for the use of that based on the percentage of use we have for it, 20%, whatever it might be. I don't really know it. But what I do know, because we've looked into it, is the budget for the senior center includes, ready for this? Includes the cost to the township for the lost tax revenue as a tax-exempt property, which means in English that we are subsidizing East Windsor for the tax-exempt property that the Senior Citizen Center is on, that they're losing municipal revenue from. And that's fantastic. Who put that in there? I don't know, but Janice is the mayor, and she's an attorney, and God love her, because as far as I'm concerned, if that's good for them on the senior center, it's good for us on the school district. True or not? I don't mind a battle, obviously, but I think we have to draw a line somewhere with respect towards how long we're going to allow taxes to go up because we're not treated fairly. We should be looking at every single rock and turning it over to find every dime we can to put it into the coppers. Because a budget and a tax in a municipality is a two-part process. The first is revenue coming in, and the second is expenses going out. So if you have a lot of revenue coming in, you could either control expenditures and treat the taxpayers well, or you can increase the expenditure to absorb all the revenue. Personally, I believe we need to address both the revenue side for more money and also the expense side. All right? I have not done a lot with the budget. That's not my forte, not what I'm dealing with right now. Unfortunately or fortunately, if the election goes next week the way we're hoping it will go, then I will have to deal with budget. Okay? And that's fine. But the point is, Steve is 100% correct with the operational budget. I am not talking operational budget. I am talking structural budget from the standpoint of tax-exempt property and impact on the borough. Now, let's get to one other one, and that happens to be the petty, which is the second part of the equation. Petty has $60 million, well, according to the state site, $60 million worth of other schools in the borough. Okay? The only big one I'm aware of is Petty. So maybe St. Anthony's little school over there is included. I really don't know what makes that up. All I do know is that Petty, in my opinion, is worth a hell of a lot more than $60 million. But when you try to do an appraisal on your house or your property, what is it that the appraiser always says? Comps. Comps. Does anybody know where the hell you can get a comp on Petty's campus? Anybody know who sold Petty's campus last time?
Maybe Pennington, I think a private school out there, that'd be the only comp I can.
And that's fine, and we appreciate that, but I think we need to take a look at it from a practical sense. There's good news and there's bad news when you up it. At the last public meeting, Larry commented on the fact that if you build up Petty, you're going to have a higher value, the percentage is going to be skewed, and all the rest of the stuff, and I'm fine. Remember where I started. 4, legal, moral, ethical, and what? Fair. Does anybody believe that the relationship, tax-wise, between Petty School and the borough taxpayers is fair?
No.
Okay, so all we need to do is sit down and find out how receptive. And Steve, in a moment I'll let you go up, okay? September 19th. It was an article in the newspaper on September 19th that said in the state of New Jersey, 29 non-profit hospitals, which are tax exempt for property, non-profit hospitals, signed an agreement through their association to give the municipalities where they are located $2.50 a day for every bed that is actively used in the hospital. It's like a surcharge. And they will put it on your bill at the hospital, and they will pass it directly over to the municipality. Now that was voluntarily. Nobody dragged them in the court. Nobody did this. I believe the time is right for us to step up and say, let's revisit the issue of the relationship. I am tired of people saying to me, they'll pack up and they'll leave. Personally, pack up and leave. The campus will be eligible for us to put taxable properties on it, a big development, a mall, whatever God puts in our plate for us. It'll be fantastic. I don't see it, but the bottom line on it is I don't think we have a problem with sitting down with them and saying, we start with the fairness side, we go with the moral and ethical side, and let's talk legal at the end. Okay, Steve, take it away.
Thanks again, JP. I think most, I was mayor from 2011 through 14. I had an opportunity to get to build a bit of a relationship with the petty administration. And when you get to do numbers again, real numbers, they do make contributions to the police, I'm sorry, to the EMS, fire, the borough, and they do ad hoc contributions on some decent projects when we need it, and it's fair. If you add it all together and take a look at their properties that are tax exempt, excluding the campus, because the campus, you can stand on your head in Macy's window, you'll never get that passed. Because if you get that passed, every private school in America will be vulnerable. So if we go after them legally, they will have every school in the country supporting them to protect their interests. So that's not going to really happen. So they're always the boogeyman, but they do pay pretty close to their fair share, and if not their full fair share. Again, I have no allegiance to the school. I didn't go there. My children didn't go there. I'm just saying, if you look at hard numbers, and then yes, I do agree. There's an ethical, consciousness about what's there to the borough, but I've had the conversation with them. They do contribute, and their main goal is to compete with the hundreds, if not thousands, of private schools. In addition, we've talked about the East Windsor Regional School District. We're talking about Petty now. Why don't we go after the post office, 10, 12 churches in town, and Mr. the Provost, I hate to bring up the Housing Authority, who makes a small, and again, I don't think you should do it. I'm happy, and you can follow me in a sec. But there's plenty of property out here besides the schools, and they might be smaller footprints. But the principle is, you're not going to go after schools and get them to pay. You're chasing your shadow. But thank you.
Just to address, the Public Housing Authority pays approximately 1.5 times what the Petty School does to the borough of Hightstown. And we're a small 3-acre site with 100 apartments. So I don't want to hear what Petty pays.
Oh, please, feel free to stand up if you'd like.
Well, it won't take long.
We're going to cut you off.
Just a couple of things for clarifying. The numbers that you're using from the state, are they real numbers, or is the state making things up?
They're certified numbers.
Okay, thank you. When you were talking about Petty, I did not hear you say take them to court. Did you say take them to court, or did you say work with them to come up with a fair resolution to this problem?
I actually started with the last one, which was fairness, and went with ethical, moral, and then wound up at legal at the end. So my approach would be for us to try to work with them. And in the event that they're not interested in working with us, then if we wind up doing legal, then we'll wind up doing legal. But listen, I honestly, here's the problem. And do you have any other comment before I, go ahead. Lynn, do you have another comment on that?
No.
Okay, well, let me just say two things to you. Here's my comment. Right now, we're not doing a damn thing with them from a practical sense. And you see the impact. If we can get impact from them, it goes to the bottom line, which is your tax bill. We're pushing for 20% municipal reduction, which is a promise we have to keep within 4 years. We're willing to give it a shot with all the obstacles and all the heartache, etc. But I'm going to tell you right now, from my perspective, if the only legal eminent domain property in the borough, which is federally owned housing, which is the apex of eminent domain, pays us a contribution in lieu of taxes, I think everybody else should be looking at it and saying, if the federal government's stepping up to the plate, who the hell is the rest? And by the way, I don't buy the fact that I believe the last time I looked, Steve, Petty was like $200 million endowment on there. So it's not like we're taking money away from the school. So Steve, all yours. Your turn.
Evening, everybody. I'm Steve Missoura, if you don't know me. I'm currently a councilman with the borough. You know, petty is something we pay close attention to. Just recently, and I've done this in the past, but just recently, because petty has been coming up in this forum and in other ones, I asked the tax assessor for a list of all of petty's properties and a breakout of which are tax exempt and which are still on the tax rolls. And just in rough numbers, there's about 2 dozen properties. Half of them are on the tax rolls, half of them are off the tax rolls. Some of them obviously are not tax exempt. They own a commercial property downtown. Others are faculty housing, and those they can claim tax exemption on. So they have not taken about half their properties off the tax rolls. I think if you start a legal battle, and if you're mayor, well, if you're mayor and your council goes along with it, maybe you'll do that. You know, obviously they'll fight it. First thing they'll probably do is pull those properties off the tax rolls, so you lose, you know, right now that total comes to $146,700. That's total tax. Our share is probably 1/3 based on the breakout, because that includes county, school, and everything like that. So that'll come off. You'll have legal fees. This will go on for years. Like you said, they have a large endowment. They have a lot of allies. They will throw everything at it, because this will be a precedent-setting thing, not only in the state of New Jersey, it'll be precedent-setting in the United States. And there'll be a fight on your hands. There'll be appeals. And you'll have to account for that in your budgeting if you want to set aside that pot of money. I do agree, and the council does meet regularly with representatives of petty. We try to identify projects that they could assist us in. Some of them were quite big in the past. I think before I was on council, one of the big ones was a water tower that they financed. There's other smaller ones that are constantly ongoing. To be honest with you, usually they look for something that benefits them as well as us, you know. But yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration with petty, and it is what it is, but it's, you know, Lawrenceville probably has the same issue with their schools. They have Rider College, they have the Lawrenceville School. They have much greater resources to go after them than we do petty, and I haven't seen them go after them. Maybe they have, maybe they get more money from petty.
Do those schools supply housing to their staff?
Yes, yes, yes.
Lawrenceville's lower taxes too.
So I'll just,
No, that's okay, Steve, you can go ahead.
yeah, so I'll just leave it at that. With regard to the housing authority, they pay a pilot. I think that's a federal mandate. They have to do that. It's not a voluntary contribution.
It's a federal
As much
option.
as we appreciate it, Steve.
It-
Keith.
It's a federal option. The federal government doesn't have to. It's a mandate that the
Well,
federal
maybe
government
Keith can speak on
establishes.
that.
And yeah, it is mandated by the federal government, because the federal government through the years has determined what they feel is fair to the municipalities in which they have housing. So even the federal government has the idea of fairness when it comes to taxes and the revenue that the municipalities lose when they have these types of properties in them.
Thank you. Sir?
I live in a community at Hightstown of 77 families. We send no children to the school system. I've lived here for 10 years, 11 years, and so just about all the other residents. But we get no consideration with respect to sending children to school, although we support the total school system as any other family does. But we send no children to the school. To me, it seems only fair that we have some kind of a rebate or some kind of a reduction in our taxes because we don't consume the school system.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Senior citizens,
Okay.
time, and they want to get out of it. They have no kids in school. They should no longer have anything to do with kids. To commit. to the school district.
Okay,
Hi.
yes, sir.
My name's Rich Werbiel, I'm from Hightstown, 2 in Chapman. I'd like to know from the two Steves, one, how much does the Petty School actually give to the township each year? Steve, you were mayor 4 years, do you know, have that?
Yeah,
On that?
hold on, let's see here.
27,000.
They give 23 to the borough.
This year.
27,000?
No, more than that. And I,
24.
All right, and the other, Steve, I'd like to know, have the homes that they don't pay taxes on, were they tax-paying homes before Petty School took them over? And if so, then we just gave them a gift of a half a dozen homes or whatever they were, tax-free. I don't think that's fair to the rest of us in this community.
So if you hopefully become mayor, I think the first thing we need is an ordinance to say no more properties to be sold to non-profit agencies. Would be the first start. The second thing would be, I keep hearing about from these gentlemen about the big bad Petty School, about how they have all these resources. Well, it seems to me there's other municipalities in the state of New Jersey and throughout this country that have the same issue as us. So we could always throw in with them as far as legal fees and setting maybe a countrywide precedent as far as getting taxes out of these schools. Also, you think you need to get a little more creative out of the box as far as like Petty School. It might be true that we can't tax like the campus itself, but you have all these homes that they own that they have administrative in. They have the golf course. They have the townhomes where their staff lives. You seems to me, well, you can maybe not legally touch the campus itself, but you can pick off all these other properties legally that they have to pay taxes on.
Okay.
Also, gentleman who was running for mayor past time, I forget what his name is, Republican, and we were talking about the churches. I think there's like 13 churches in town. And one of the things I researched for him was in other states, counties, they have done eminent domain on some of these churches. So they have large tracts of land, not paying any taxes, and eminent domain has gone through, if you research it, Google it, in other small towns like Hightstown, they have been able to do eminent domain on some of these churches.
And do what with it?
They get taxable. Tear it down, put townhomes, no, burn it down.
Okay, let's not have an intramural. Connie?
My only comment on this is that the people who have spoken, who have been involved in council in this township, seem to be giving this doom and gloom. We shouldn't do this. It could get worse. They could come after us. It'll be awful. It'll be lawsuits. But, you know, we need to try. And I haven't heard from you the aggressiveness of we're going to do this. I mean, we just want to talk. We want what's fair. We want what's equitable. But now they're giving us the scare tactics about be careful, you know, because we've done this for so long. We've done the same thing. And what have we got? Nothing. We've got no way. We've got the rug mill. We've got this forever. So don't scare us and say, we shouldn't. Be careful because they'll get us. Let's try something different.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Okay, we're going to wrap up taxes in a moment because we have other issues, but I want to say two things from a practical sense. Item number one, and Steve, I mean no stretch of the imagination as a cheap shot at all, but your comment about the amount of money that might be necessary to fight Petty or to fight East Windsor or whoever from a lawsuit standpoint, I'm a little appalled at the amount of money the borough spent in the last 3 years on litigations that we've lost, that we could have used for the taxpayers. So I think litigation is not necessarily a thing we need to be afraid of. I think litigation is a tool like any other tool, and I'll give you a chance to reply to that, definitely, okay? But I want to say one last thing. I'll let Steve finish after my comment, but look, my position is what's happening now is not working. We need to do something. We need change in this area. Do you people agree or not? All right, so my feeling with respect towards it is, you try A, that doesn't work, you try B, that doesn't work, we try C. We get all the way down to M and N, and if we get tired, we'll stop. But at that point, I personally believe it's not a fight of a mayor and 6 council people against petty. It is a community standing up for its rights. Okay? Your turn.
JP, I'm appalled at the frivolous lawsuits that you filed against the borough. I know of one since I've been on council.
Okay, no. The Democratic site mentioned frivolous lawsuits. Let's be honest about it. Full disclosure, there was a planning board decision which was made on a development on North Main Street. I paid to have an attorney come in and represent the community of North Main Street. I paid for it out of my own pocket. We went, we fought it. The planning board, basically under Steve's control, at the time, Mr. Chairman, basically told us we're going to stuff that little house right in the middle of these larger homes, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. And guess what? Fine. We never filed a lawsuit on that one, Steve. I filed a lawsuit on the North Main Street Preserve. And the North Main Street Preserve was because they cut down a tree. And I went to the council, my council, the night they cut it down, and objected to it. And Mr. Bob Patton, who was the mayor at the town, said, oh, that's terrible. We'll work on it right away. And guess what? They didn't do a damn thing. And then I basically came back to the council a month later and said, hey, and Mr. Patton, the mayor, said, you never filed a formal complaint. And I said, I went to an open public council meeting, and I commented on it, and even Fred Repetto at the time, who was the counsel for the borough, said, that's a legitimate complaint, Mr. Mayor. You have to say yes. So I waited another 30 days. End result was, when I finally decided to sue the borough, the planning board, and the developer, lo and behold, I missed the 60-day cutoff period to file the lawsuit. Oh, the word frivolous lawsuit, ask your attorneys, means damages and fees. Don't use frivolous lawsuit on me unless I paid a dime in legal fees to whoever the hell supposedly got judgment. So don't say frivolous. You want to say I filed a lawsuit? Goddamn right I will. Anytime some bureaucrat does shit to the people in my neighborhood, I'll be happy to stand up on behalf. Don't call it a frivolous lawsuit. And don't make it personal. Don't make it personal. I gave you the last one about the lawsuit for the borough. Feel free to talk about borough lawsuits we lost and the hundreds of thousands of dollars we spent on them. I don't need to yell.
It's your meeting.
It's my meeting. Hey, feel free.
I just have this ruling from Judge Jacobson. If you say it's not a lawsuit.
And what does the ruling say?
The complaint in lieu of prerogative writ filed by plaintiff, which is you, is dismissed. The board's approval of Milram's application to subdivide its property with several variances is confirmed. The borough had to pay the defendant's planning board for a decision in me.
It was not a frivolous lawsuit if you object to a decision by the Planning and Zoning Board with respect towards the property decision you object to. The judge did not do it with prejudice against me constituting a frivolous lawsuit, in which case, Steve, I would have had to reimburse the borough. It never took place. Yes, sir, your turn. We're moving it past the taxes, okay?
Real quick on that one. I live on North Main Street, and guess what? That house is right next door to me. Now, we for 6 months, when that other quote-unquote developer rehabbed the Croshaw house, little facelift on the hall, came to the planning board with all their lawyers, their architects, what they wanted to build, showed us a picture of all that. It's impossible to build a house like that on that lot. It went on for 6 months. They kept revising things. They had a big stream of people. But what really happened? That name of that developer simply sold the house, then sold that lot to this other guy to build this house. Of course, the house that's being built is not quite with the pictures that are in the Borough Hall. But the point really is, what the council did for the 6 months, listening to those people, did not listen to the people here saying that, well, we need a developer, we need developers. This guy he's not developing anything. He was there to get your permission to subdivide that group so he can sell that thing, which they did, okay? I'm sorry?
Was it legal or not?
Oh, it's legal. It doesn't matter. It's our neighborhood. What's legal. But the planning board, what did they do? They went along with them because they thought they were going to build a house there. None of the plans would work there. He sold it. Not that developer, okay? Because why? You guys went along, it was 4-1. One is things that don't, build, let it, be the way it is for the area. You went along with the original developer who said he was going to build something, had no intention of building it, okay? They sold it. Oh, but we didn't know that. We didn't know that. We're the planning board. We're the board.
Okay.
This is what we do. This is, all we goes back to a lot of stuff that has been happening in this town. How long have I lived there? 38 years or more, okay? Been around, listen to this, all of this stuff that we do, we just talk a lot of stuff. And then we go into the other thing about fear. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. But don't tell me about that lot.
Scott, it's all yours.
I can't keep my mouth shut. My name is Scott Castor. For those who don't know me, I too was a former mayor, or am a former mayor. Thanks. I don't want this to be about me. I just want it to be about all of us. I want it to be about looking for solutions to problems, namely, in this case, the tax problem that we have in Hightstown. I really hate it when anybody on council or not, resident or not, I hate it when we come up and we close down possibility. I am a nut when it comes to possibility. There's possibilities out there that I can't see, that you can't see. They're out there somewhere, and I'm willing to go for it. That's where I live. I look at where we are right now. I'm sorry to speak up too loudly if I am. I'm trying to talk over that AC unit or heat unit. For those that are in denial, and there is plenty of denial to go around in Hightstown, that we have a problem. If you moved your house, and I know this to be true, if you moved your house to any other town in central New Jersey, do you know you'd pay less in property taxes? The reason for that is we have the highest tax rate in central New Jersey, bar none. There's about 150 to 175 towns in central New Jersey. We are top of the list. The primary reason that I believe Mr. Gibbons is attributing to that high tax rate is our tax-exempt properties. If we have a high percentage of tax-exempt properties, somebody's got to pick up the burden. I have no problem in looking at East Windsor Regional School District and East Windsor Township. Really, we're in a contractual relationship with them over the school district. We are in some form of agreement with East Windsor Township that's dictated by the state of New Jersey or dictated and put together 50, 60 years ago. And that, like Mr. Gibbons said, it was a long time ago, and the population in Hightstown was greater than the population in East Windsor. Nothing has been adjusted ever since. The statistic that Mr. Gibbons said, about 31% of your property taxes is the local municipal portion that Hightstown municipal government controls. That 31%, if you owned a house in Hightstown in 2005, it was 21%. I got my tax bills over there on that table. If anybody wants to see them, I can document what I just said. But your tax bills say the exact same thing. I resent that nobody in Hightstown on council over the last 10, 12, 14 years has addressed, vigorously addressed, the problem that we're talking about that we all have in common. And I think it's about time, and I don't think anybody can object to that. I don't even blame people on council who say we don't have a problem. I don't blame them for not even doing anything about it. Not really, I don't. I just put them in a category where they can't see the truth yet, and they shut it down like there's no possibility. So I'm hoping that everybody else in the room can see, even if you can't see where we're going with this.
Scott, back off a little bit.
Just allow for that there maybe is a possibility out there that we can act upon. In closing,
Your 3 minutes are up.
if you don't think there's a problem in Hightstown with tax-exempt property, just prorate over to East Windsor. If they had the burden because of having a regional school system and schools, if they had the same burden that we have, remember they're 6 times the size of Hightstown, they would have 6 high schools. They have none. They would have 18 grade schools. They have 3.
2.
3.
Middle school.
Middle schools, whatever you call them.
No, 1 middle, 2 grammar schools.
So it's time that we take a look at it. And I just, I salute the candidates that are talking about it, and I only wish that we could talk about it some more without meeting resistance. I'm not throwing any darts at anybody. I'm just asking us to take the ball and let it roll.
All right, thank you, Scott. We're just going to finish the next 2 people on this, and then we're going to move on to a really good topic, which is the YMCA, or the new Borough Hall, which is not a controversial issue at all. Go for it, sir.
I'm happy to see my neighbors here tonight. I'm Frank Rivera. I'm
Thank you, Rob.
To Hightstown, 1980. We all have a dog in this fight, neighbors. When we're talking about litigation, and I listen carefully against the school district, against the churches, against the township of East Windsor, and against Petty School. You need a great team of attorneys who can specialize in municipal litigation. Not one attorney. It's costly. And we all have a dog in this fight. You have to budget for litigation. Mr. Gibbons said, give us a little history. Past practice, Hightstown has lost. So you have to pay the piper. And that means everybody in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, welcome. You can come on up. I just want to clarify one thing. No one here tonight has mentioned anything about a lawsuit against churches. Okay?
Eminent domain.
No one mentioned a lawsuit with churches. There was a comment by someone about eminent domain. Okay? I do not want the headline tomorrow to be that we talked about suing churches. Okay? That's not what we're talking about. Please, your turn.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Spann. I'm a resident of Hightstown. I'm live streaming our this meeting tonight so that more people can be involved in our local government. I'm taking questions, and I had a question from Doug, and it was, there are council members present, and he wanted to know why they are going after you. I'm not really familiar with everyone in the town, like in that respect, so if you want to address that question,
Well,
that's
thank you.
all I've got.
Appreciate
for
it.
now.
I
Thank you.
personally do not consider the council people who have spoken to be going after me, except on the question of the frivolous lawsuit, but that's perfectly okay. Sir. Go ahead. Steve.
Can I speak?
Please.
I mean, it's your meeting. I apologize for using that term. I mean, you filed an appeal.
Correct.
To a planning board decision. It's appealed in the court. A judge ultimately makes the ruling. You paid for your attorneys, the borough paid for their attorneys. I agree with you I shouldn't have called it a frivolous lawsuit, so.
Appreciate it. Call the prerogative writ, which is whenever you challenge a decision by a planning zoning board, referred to as prerogative writ, the judge gets to see whether or not they agree. It's just a separate review above the municipality. You're 100% correct. I appreciate it. I just take exception when someone says frivolous lawsuit or other things about my actions. Okay, we're going to move on to a little topic referred to, which I'm sure a number of people arrived here for, which is the new municipal building. And before we do the municipal building, which Milton is going to handle on us, a number of people have asked questions for us, and I just, in historical context, I want to show you something which will make some people gasp and other people laugh. And what I'm going to show you is a sign. Those of you who have been around about 5-6 years saw this hanging outside the tavern on the lake. There was a question about what to do with the borough and whether the insurance company would pay, etc. There were hearings, there was a lot of arguments and stuff. I, which I do on a regular basis, get irritated about certain things, and I do the proverbial, put your money where your mouth is. So I brought up 5 specific statements that people said were wrong. I put a public notice out there, and I said the first person who could prove one or all 5 of those statements to be false would get $1,000 for each question. We did receive 2 notices. One was Gene Seraphin, who immediately said, they're all wrong, I want my $5,000. I said, thank you very much, Gene. It requires proof. Okay? But if you look at the first 2 that are up here, background, there exists disinformation about the actual reason for council's decision to rebuild the Borough Hall complex back at the same site downtown. Several lies have been spread concerning the outrageous cost to Hightstown taxpayers for this decision. That was background. Here's the statement. Prove it wrong. If the Borough Hall complex is rebuilt at the same standards that previously existed for size, material, and function, Administrative Court, Police Department, Hightstown taxpayers are liable only for the initial $500,000 deductible minus FEMA reimbursements. The cost of rebuilding at the current location to current codes, including ADA and rising the building to prevent future flood damage, will be paid under the insurance settlement regardless of the cost. Be it $2 million, $8 million. Prove the statement wrong. No one could. No one did. That was 5 years ago. The second one deals with the same thing. If the Borough Hall complex is not rebuilt at the current location, the insurance company does not have to pay the full cost of rebuilding at another location minus the deductible. Hightstown taxpayers must pay any cost above the settlement amount. FEMA does not have to pay any amount towards another location once a settlement is reached between the insurance company and the borough. Prove that statement wrong. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing that there's a $2 million settlement for the existing Borough Hall complex, which has been directed, according to the public documents, to the YMCA project. Okay? From a practical sense. And what we're saying is, back 5 years ago, we could have built a brand new complex downtown in the same location for less than $500,000. We were told it was in a flood zone. We were told a lot of things, but now what we have is we have the ability to put a subterranean garage in a flood zone because it's not a public project. It's a private project. Milton, take it away. I just wanted to give you some historical background on how long this project has been kicking around. Thank you much.
My
guys. No, Mike, that's fine. My name is Milton Matamoros. I've been resident of Hightstown for, okay, I need a mic. Can you hear me now? Oh, that's better. Well, hold it back. Even my voice sounds better. I like it now. All right, anyway, my name is Milton Matamoros. I've been here living in Hightstown since 2008 when I bought my house right behind Public Works. I love this town. My 2 kids are here. My daughter goes to Hightstown High School, and my son goes to Rogers. And it's just me, my wife, and my kids in the house. I am hurt by the tax increase. I have come up to the board council meetings often. I have reached out to a few members. I've been trying to get involved. But to be honest, with all honesty, I've been just pushed around. It's like, none of your business. Or like, let's do something. I never hear back from anyone. Thankfully, I got able to be involved thanks to JP and Scott Costard and a lot of people. They believe that I have the right attitude to do something. And that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm just one of you. This has nothing to do with being a Democrat. It has nothing to do with being a Republican. It has nothing to do with being anybody. It has to do with my future, and it has to do with your future. So let's talk about the YMCA. Can you guys read that? No. All right, excellent. So according to the board's own documents and the responses that we have received with multiple versions of our numbers being wrong, 8.4 million, the total amount they come out with is the assigned for this project is 7,642,000 plus the 750K that they spend on the building. Right? Now, I also hear from Hightstown that residents want to consolidate with East Windsor, make it all at once. Why should we pay PD? Why should we pay the borough employees? And why should we do all this stuff? So it got me thinking about, if we are even having the remote idea of consolidating with East Windsor, why should we be spending $8.4 million on a project? Shouldn't this be passed to the Hightstown residents and go on a vote and see whether we wanted to go forward or not? It should not be discussed behind doors. It should not be discussed during the council meeting and say, oh yeah, we approved it. I don't like it, but we approved it. That's what I hear. I don't like it, but I approved it. So why should we spend 8.4 if we're thinking of consolidating, right? In any case, the state recommends that every time we have a project, we do 3 quotes. I only see 1 quote for this project, unless I'm mistaken. If there's a second or third quote, I would love to see it. And in our brochure, we have listed a small chart that you can see the tax increase in the last 8 years being up to 43%. So guess what's going to happen if 8.4 million are starting flowing to this project? Who is going to pay this? Are the consuls? Is the mayor getting the money out of his pocket? Or is the property taxes paying this? I think the property taxes are funding this, right? Unless I'm not right. So that translates to another 8 years of tax increase properties. So if 10 years ago you paid 4,000, now you're paying 10,000, by 10 years from now, maybe 20,000. It's just numbers. Numbers don't lie. I can be preaching over here all night long, trying to convince you what I think, trying to give you an idea. I'm not for that. I'm not wasting my time. Numbers speak for themselves. So what are the alternatives? So we can build where it's at. How we have any quote on where we can have an input and say, can we use public work offices? Can we move the public work somewhere else and do something there? Reassess the building next door. I'm a fireman, and I'm so impressed and so humble to be part of a community of people who came together and rebuilt this facility, and it's working. We were able to stand over here and have this meeting tonight. Every other business in town went through the same process. What was different? What was different with the Borough Hall? What was different with the Borough Hall? It's just a normal, logical question I have. What was different? What was different? Why would the Borough Hall not done the same thing the firehouse did, or not done the same thing the business did?
Hey, Milton, the difference was that most of the police department and the storage area was below street level, not where the fire department is, but if you take a look, it goes down. There was so much damage done to that building that, and some of that information is incorrect. The insurance company was not going to reimburse the borough dollar for dollar if we stayed there. That's incorrect. We can't go back without fulfilling current state codes for a police department, for a court, and for an administrative building. That was out of date. We were grandfathered, and once we left because of the flood, we have to meet new standards. And it sounds great. I mean, I get it. I really appreciate you coming forward and running, and you're a great member of this community. But it's interesting, because I had to learn this too. Every time you try to do something, man, the state stands in, they have regulations upon regulations. So I asked, and I'll be happy to sit with you tomorrow, at your convenience, I'll even tell you, to kind of bring you up to what the challenges are to meet these codes. And there was a study done by an architect that the 2012-13 council brought forward. And it was an architect who did this plan for the borough, a different one than whatever. I haven't seen the most, I haven't seen the most recent plan for the $7 million, but there was a study done by an architect to rebuild in the general area where it was. And at that point, this is now November 2013, the cost was about $6.4 million was the estimate. Didn't excludes furniture, furnishings, equipment, excludes professional fees, which are attorneys, architects, engineers. Permit fees are not included. So, and that's 2013, we're in 2018, so it's 5 years, so even 10% inflation gives us another 600,000, that's 7 million. Plus, if you put all the, they didn't cover 911 systems for the police department, electronic access control. So we're probably talking about pretty close to what this estimate is. And the council was going forward. They actually put forward, they wanted to raise a bond for $5 million. It was going to be passed. And two of our residents, well, one, mentioned Gene Seraphin, did a little research and found out that a community can stand up to its council and say, we don't buy what you're doing. And they went forward and got a whole bunch of signatures, whatever was needed legally. They stopped it. $5 million was going to be raised and it was intended to be spent on this project. It's amazing. Things 6 years later, we're talking about the same thing. And I can tell you, you probably just, well, maybe you just moved in right there when the flood hit. It sounds as if we could have purchased a property that was available at the time, which is now owned by Custom Bandag, the commercial tire place. And we could have bought that 100% on insurance money. And I had used when our head of the police department at the time sat with an architect, they came up with close to $600,000 of improvements for the police department, and it didn't get done. The council voted against that project, 2 votes to 4. 4 approved it, 4 didn't. And the 2 who approved it, Susan Bluth and at that time Council President Larry Cotroni. So we would have been in a place for no cost to the residents of the borough. But, and let me just finish one thing. And I just lost my train of thought, what I wanted to say. But this unfortunately goes forward, and we still have an opportunity to get the insurance money. There's going to be $1 million collected for the sale of Borough Hall, and that will subsidize it. But my comment is, now I got my train of thought back. Our police department has been renting space at Custom Band Egg right on Mercer Street for the last 7 years now. My hat's off to them. They have been working under the worst conditions of any police department in the state of New Jersey. The worst. And they've done an incredibly great job. We have to provide the proper station for them to do their work in the future. We're not talking to East Windsor about consolidation. Off the table. The last time there was a referendum in the late 1960s, Hightstown approved it. People in East Windsor turned it down.
All right, say
But I'll stop.
we have to wrap it up.
Okay, because I'm taking your time up. But your information that you're providing tonight, although it's felt from the heart, not totally accurate. And I said, I offer my time to you and anyone else, anybody here. I'll sit down with you and tell you what the history of this project is all about. But the police department deserves, and I think, JP, you do have to agree with me, they deserve a proper police station to work out of. This is an atrocity.
All right, thank you so much. Now, the information that I provided is accurate. It comes straight out from the borough office, and those are the numbers. No numbers have been made out or wrote out without physically double checking them. So I do, and we do know what we're talking about. And I do appreciate the time and your feedback, Stephen. And before I pass it back to JP, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and this seems to be a problem in our town, I have problems with Mr. Kerson's recollection of things. We were actually, I was on the council at this time. I voted to go forward with this project. We were told we had to bond the whole project, and so we did that. That was the $5 million. And by the way, it was council personnel, Steve Masura, Denny Hansen, were with Gene Serafin on that petition for us to take that back, which we did. There was FEMA still on the table, okay? There was a chance to still deal with the insurance company. And I believe the insurance company did replace furniture inside of the building. So I'm not sure, you're getting a whole complete picture of that.
Thank you, Lee. Now, just 3 things before I pass it over to JP. I believe in open door policy. And for everything I hear tonight and for what I have here in the past years, I have not heard anything that says we have involved the Hightstown residents on this project. I have not heard anyone said we have reached out to the Hightstown residents, we have invited them, we have had a public meeting, because I've been to the council meetings and there is probably 2 or 3 people with the same people over and over again. Tonight I see new faces.
Okay, I just want to step up and clarify a couple of things. Milton was not here at the time. I want to bring it back to yesteryear. Steve is correct. There were 3 estimates that the Borough Council requested and got. He is correct about the $6.5 million. That's the one you keep hearing about. But as you just heard from prior Councilwoman Lynn Woods, they were funding a bond for $5 million, which included 100% of the funding. Why? Because they chose a $4.5 million proposal. That's why. Plus the $500,000 deductible equals what? $5 million. Okay, so let's not say there's 4 different proposals and we're going to take the highest volume proposal going on. They chose $4.5 million. I bring you back, and that's why people love me, because I'm a pack rat. 5 years ago when this was going down, what does it say? Number 1, if that was a fact, someone could have collected $1,000 cash by proving it. Reality of the situation is I personally paid to have an insurance expert on commercial property come into the borough with the council's approval. The policies were given to them. They reviewed it. They came back and told us what the insurance company would be required to pay. That's why we said it would be the $500,000 deductible minus what we could get back from FEMA, concept was. So while I appreciate Steve's comment, he is correct. It was 6.5 million was one of the proposals. The one adopted by the council back there 5 years ago was the 4.5 million. The numbers work, okay? We all agree on the $5 million. So I just want to bring it back. Milton did not have the opportunity to be here during that process, shall we simply say. Some people would call it a cluster, but I call it a process because I'm being polite on this. Once again, Rich?
Yes, hi. I've only lived in Hightstown about 11 years. So I'd like to ask some of the people that have been here longer, how long has the police station, City Hall been downtown there in the spot it's been in? Does anybody know?
Scott? How long, Scott?
Day one, early there forever.
Early 60s, so it's probably almost,
Used to
what,
be a car
50
dealership.
years or so? 50 years? So how many times in that 50 years has it flooded out?
Twice.
It has flooded out twice?
Yeah.
When was the last time before this previous one?
Probably 70s.
Early 70s? Okay.
Well, what you have to remember is what Milton mentioned. We have photos of this building with 4.5 to 6 feet of running water going right through the building, coming right out the back. What you don't know is while the police department had 6 feet worth of water in it, because it is lower, okay? It is lower. The Borough Hall itself had nowhere more than 6-inch watermark on it. That's a fact. It was testified to. It never had more than 6-inch up. So the reality was you would have had to tear out the police department, absolutely positively, and the heating unit was in the police department lower area, got that. But the building itself could have easily been renovated had the opportunity been, had they wanted to do it. What they did was originally put in purifiers to drain it out. At the time, the borough administrator, who was totally unqualified with no experience, did not like the bill that they were getting from Service Pro or whoever the contractor was. He threw them off the site, closed the building up, and allowed the mold to fester. Okay? We could have torn out the center, absolutely. And, by the way, there was a proposal for a $500,000 police station in mobile units, fully qualified, fully approved by the state, that could have been brought in there and put behind the historical building over there. But it was denied by the council on a 4-2 vote once again, and that was Susan Blue, Larry, okay, Selena, and who was the other? No, I'm sorry. It was a 3-3 with the mayor. He just left. It was 3-3. It was 4-3 vote on there. Okay, to kill the idea. But at the time, the borough police director was the acting administrator, and he came up with the proposal. Okay.
One other question. The insurance money, we still haven't collected that, correct? Is that correct?
We've heard about it. Maybe Steve can answer.
Is there a reason why we haven't? Oh, well, I was going to say, why are they holding it? Why can't we get it and collect interest on it for the last 8 years?
Thank you.
The insurance is a payout. You have to spend and they reimburse you. So what we've spent so far, they've reimbursed us on. So far the purchase, I think insurance money went towards the purchase of the YMCA.
Other than that, nothing else was spent, right?
Correct.
So how do we fix the firehouse? Is that separate insurance?
So
Go ahead, Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You brought up a couple of questions about about involving the public, right? And you have that slide up, and that slide's from a presentation that council did back in February. And this is where we presented to the public the option to buy the YMCA for use as a municipal facility. And this was to present in a shortened kind of presentation format the findings of the feasibility study that we had paid for to determine if the YMCA could be repurposed as a municipal building. And that was prior to the purchase. We got public feedback that night. I was there, it was positive. I remember JP was positive, and I thought in my memory that he was positive about it. I was kind of surprised when he turned on this project, so I went back and listened to the audio recording, and he said it was a very good presentation. He didn't really come out and say he was in favor of it, so maybe that...
I appreciated the presentation. Let me put you back into reality. February 15th, 2018, executive session. Go back and look at the agenda. Executive session, contract, Borough Hall complex, followed by open public meeting, followed by the presentation, followed by the comments, followed by a resolution to buy or authorize the purchase of the property. That's what Milton is talking about. You go, you put it up, you show it, you get the thing, and the resolution, which irritated the hell out of me, says in there, whereas the public hearing required by law has been held, that was the public hearing. I stood up and said, that's bad form.
No,
that was bad form.
It took, yeah. That's what you did say.
Thank you, Steve. If we can have brief on your comments. Okay,
I just want to finish.
Sure, go ahead.
Because it did come as a surprise that all of a sudden this is a controversial issue, and I want to direct my question to candidate mayor. She's the chairperson of the Hightstown Preservation, the Historic Preservation Commission. And at their February 15th meeting, I wasn't at it, but in the meeting minutes, they spoke about Borough Council's decision to purchase the YMCA. And Mr. Musing reviewed the process council followed in determining the YMCA building would be ideal for the Borough Hall location. The HBC is unanimously in favor of the purchase of this proposed use. So I'm just curious if you were in favor of it or you're against it, and maybe you could clarify.
I don't know if I was the chair at that point, so I
You were.
really
You were.
can't.
You were.
Okay. I don't think that we should be spending this much money for it. I don't know what to say.
Well, that's fine, Jean. You gotta move.
I
The
honestly...
question was, do you remember the vote? The answer is no.
Don't actually remember it.
No, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Milton, continue with your YMCA.
Right, thank you.
We want to get into the rug mill at some point, Ken.
All right, so, and then to follow up everything that is happening with the YMCA, recently there was a letter posted on the Trenton Times on October 26, where someone's trying to explain why the why, you know? Why the why. So as I read it through, it just pretty much confirms again all the numbers, and now that it's finally to the public, that people can give you feedback and input on whether it's right, it's not right, let's go for it, don't do it. As I read through it, I'm like, okay, so 750, 7.6, so it still goes back to 8.4 million, so we have been putting the right numbers. And then he also says that we're still waiting for a FEMA claim. And going back to Stephen, right? He said that the insurance gave you the money after you spend it. So why didn't we spend the money to rebuild the borough and then collect the money, right? Just based on what you said. Exactly, so it makes no sense. So, and again, so it's 8.4. So I was going through the post and I saw some very heated comments where people saying, will this $1 million of improvements renovation ratio to 750? Like people really, it's out of the picture. The residents of Hightstown are totally outside the picture of what's going on at the borough level. And it should not be like that. When you come to the borough, there is not even the proper microphones for you to hear what they say. So why don't we spend something and then inform the public on what needs to be done and stuff that need to be informed. There is another resident who is very upset. All these comments only proves that why I'm spending $8.4 million. And if everyone is okay with that, without researching or doing any other proposals, we have alternatives. And our proposal is to start the YMCA project and offer a more practical solution to it. Is it fair? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it convenient to us? What is the impact to the taxpayers? With that, guys, I'll let you think about it. Get back on our Facebook page, on myhightstown.org, and give us more info on the regards of YMCA. Our position is to stop the project, get some more quotes, and review them, and get the public, the residents of Hightstown involved on that project, and see what is the best beneficial route to take for the residents of Hightstown. Thank you. Jenny?
Hi, my name is Jean Ruggiero-Mayer. I was asked to speak a little bit about the Rug Mill project. I don't know if you know what's going on with it. As of right now, Phase 1 has been approved. Phase 1 is consisting of townhomes and apartments. The townhomes, there'll be 34 townhomes with parking underneath for the residents, 2 parking spots each. The apartments, they are rentals, they're not to purchase. The apartments, there will be 76 apartments. Parking will be outside on the grounds. One concern I have is that there'll be 1 and 2. I'm not a public speaker, so please bear with me. There'll be 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. The 1 bedroom will get 1 parking spot each. The 2 bedrooms will get 2. My concern with that is if a husband and wife move into a 1 bedroom and they have 2 cars, where's the other car going to park? Part of the rug mill, when they brought it to the public, the original plan, along with the townhomes and the apartments, they were talking about putting in retail space and either artist lofts. That's going to be in Phase 2. Now, we haven't heard anything about if Phase 2 is going to go through or not. I want to just read something from one of the reports I have. The municipal building associated land in, the municipal buildings and associated land is in Phase 2. I know they've been talking about getting $1 million from the sale of the old municipal building, but that is not in this phase. I also heard there could be a Phase 3, so we don't know when the actual purchase of the old Borough Hall is going to take place. And then as far as the artist lofts and studio lofts, the report said that it's not included in Phase 1, but could be incorporated in Phase 2. So having retail stores in Phase 2 is not a definite yet. So that's just some information on what's going on with the rug mill. redevelopment plan. Phase one has been approved. There'll be the 34 townhomes, 76 apartments, all rental. Thank you.
Any questions anyone has on the Rug Mill project, which has been 35 years in the making?
Yeah, if we could see that diagram again.
No.
Could you show us where the rug factory is and what
One
that's
more.
going to turn into?
Well, what street is that? Yeah. This is Academy. This is the townhomes.
This is Academy right here.
These are the townhomes, so there'll be 34 rental units.
Bank Street. This is where the blue warehouse is. That whole area is going to sit on where the blue warehouse does right now.
The brick building is where the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments are.
Where's that, in the back?
So that's in the back. That's the big brick building.
The brook is the separation between phase one, which has been approved, and phase two or phase three going forward. Okay? So if you take a look right now, right there, where the brook is, move it up a little more, that's phase one to the left. That's all phase one that's been approved. Phase two and possibly phase three is down here. This is the firehouse. That is the Historic Society building there. That's a new building, that's a new building. Okay?
That's the parking area for the apartments.
I have a question. My question is, one of the elephants in the room that has been mentioned more than once tonight was the $1 million that the developer has committed. I'd like to know what kind of commitment that is. Because I hear words that it was an agreement, I hear words that it was an understanding, I hear words that it's in the second or third phase. I don't see any construction to date. I don't know if this is going to happen 10 years from now. It's just an open-ended question that I don't know the answer to, and I really would wish it to see how it impacts. It impacts two projects. It impacts this one. It impacts the YMCA and this white elephant of a building there that if it never is going to go into somebody else's hands, I think it's back to the possibility of it being used by the present owner.
The answer to the question, to the best of our knowledge.
I wanted to direct the
no, it's
okay.
fine. I know where you were going with it. So I'm basically saying, can you hear me? Okay. The reality of the situation is I don't see or have not seen in any of the public documents a signed agreement binding both sides to it. At the last public meeting, the mayor, who's not here at the moment, but the mayor said there was an understanding, quote unquote, which is what he said. Okay? We asked for where the document was on the understanding, and he said, trust me, it's an understanding we have. So maybe Steve, as councilman, could identify for us the source that we can look at for that understanding. Go, Steve.
So to answer that direct question, there's something called the redevelopers agreement made between the borough and the redeveloper. And it names this specific company, RGB Global, as the redeveloper. It lays out the parameters of what the projects are. There's, I think this map or something similar is included in it and gives all the details of what the project needs to be. And in that are all the different conditions. And one of those conditions is the purchase of the Borough Hall property. And there's a timeline. I forget exactly where it fits in, but certain things have to fall into place, because if they were to buy the property today, if we were to say, okay, you know, we've waited long enough, we need the money, you have to buy the property, they would be the proud owners of this firehouse, because this firehouse sits on that property. So as part of the approval of phase one was also what's called a minor subdivision, where you take a large lot and you subdivide it into one or you know, you carve out smaller lots. So that process had to take place. So there's all those moving parts, but to answer the direct question, where is the signed agreement that has the borough's signature and the developer's signatures? That's called the redeveloper's agreement. I don't think it's posted online, but it is a public record, and you could ask for it.
Simple question. This project, the rug mill, how many prior developer agreements has the borough signed with a developer?
None for this project.
Let me rephrase. This site, how many prior developer agreements has the borough signed for that property?
0.
Didn't they sign one with Wolfington?
No,
Did they not?
It never got to that. That's where it broke down. There's two things. It may be confusing. There's something called the redevelopment plan, and there's the redeveloper's agreement. The redevelopment plan gets adopted actually the redevelopment plan is out there. You could have a redevelopment plan without a redeveloper. And that's what you had. They negotiated with Wolfington what the redevelopment plan would be. It kept changing and changing, but they never got to the point where there was a signed redeveloper's agreement.
Okay. I recall there was a redeveloper's agreement. I know there was two separate assignments of a developer.
I don't remember there ever being a
And I remember because one of the issues was when Wolfington stepped out of the pocket, Wolfington's company had paid $38,000 for the lights on Bank Street. And they sued the borough to get the money back on there because it was part of the agreement and it never, so they sued us to get the money back on that one. Because I asked at the time they were being put in, I said, who's paying for it? And they said it's in the redeveloper's agreement with Wolfington. I said, what happens if it doesn't go through? He says, it's not a problem. It didn't go through. And next thing I know, the borough's got a bill and a lawsuit threat for the $40,000.
You know, JP, maybe there was, I wasn't on council at the time. If you have information, please share it with me. I'd love to know if there was.
That's fine. I'm just simply saying a redeveloper's agreement does not necessitate, if that developer walks away from the redeveloper's agreement, he may lose a bond or whatever was posted. But the question that the group is asking is, if the project goes forward, the redeveloper's agreement requires them to buy the property for that price. Got it. But if the development does not go forward, what is the legal ramifications to force someone to buy the property?
I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer for sure, but it is a signed agreement. There is, okay, if it doesn't, obviously he's not going to build anything if he doesn't buy the property.
Right.
We'll never issue a permit. He doesn't even he has a lot of conditions. The site plan approval had a lot of conditions he still has to meet. It was a conditional approval. One of those is to comply with the redeveloper's agreement and buy the property. If it doesn't go forward, he can't sell the property. That's one thing that's for sure, because the redeveloper's agreement basically stipulates we have control over who he could sell it to, so he'll be stuck with it. The other thing is, I imagine we would sue him for that money. I don't know, though.
Did they give a time when phase 1 was going to start?
Yeah, we gave him a time. You know what? I don't know if I have it here. I checked, because, you know, that approval was a couple months ago. Obviously, nothing's happened yet. We gave them like these certain windows where phase 1 has to begin. 6 months after phase 1, phase 2 has to begin. There's this whole timeline. That's actually in the redeveloper's agreement as well. But last time I checked, he was still in compliance with that. It's kind of a generous, like 6-month period he had or something that he was allowed a window before he had to go to the next step.
To kick in 6 months.
After approval, I think within, I can't say for sure. I'd have to have it in front of me.
Can we look this up online on the computer and all this?
That one, I don't think that one's online. I think, I could see if we could get it posted online.
Okay, ma'am, you want to do me a favor?
I was just going to ask about, are those townhouses ratables or rentals?
The rental,
They're
rental,
rentals.
the whole project is rental.
But it's a tax ratable. Yeah.
What kind of taxes would they be, you know, how much is that going to generate?
What's the projected breakdown of the property?
I'd have to ask the tax assessor. He may be reluctant to ask to answer that question as well.
It's fine, it's a legitimate question, we don't have the answer for it.
I thought,
Is
were the people
project
purchasing
eight
them and paying our tax rate, or was it?
involved in
Was
Section 8?
Wait,
Will they have low-income
No.
people moving in here?
no.
Steve, do me a favor, several people just asked a quick question, which you can put to bed real fast. There is no pilot with this payment in lieu of taxes, correct?
Correct. They'll be paying full taxes.
They'll pay whatever taxes are assessed for the property. All right, thank you. I'd like to take the next 10, 12 minutes, whatever we have left, open it up for other questions besides taxes, tax-exempt properties, the YMCA, and the rug mill. Are there any other issues that you have, sir?
Well, I have a question for you about what we're looking at here. In the case that this guy bails out and we are no longer in control of $1 million for that property, which has already been attributed to offsetting the cost of the YMCA project, who pays that $1 million, or does the YMCA project also stall? We're stuck with a rundown $1 million building.
The answer to the question, just so there's no misunderstanding, it is my position and our team's position that if we do, in point of fact, get elected next week, to try to convince the people on the council to kill the YMCA project. I think it's a fiasco. I think it's a white elephant concept-wise. I just think it's a waste. I think we need to go back to the drawing boards, find out what else we have. We own a building. I got the idea that we own a building. We paid overpriced for it. As far as I'm concerned, I understand that too. We're going to stop the project, just so there's no misunderstanding. If you want the YMCA project to continue, feel free to vote that way. I believe that it's a white elephant that needs to be shot before it gets started, okay? We need a lot more discussion about it before I would agree to allow it to move forward if I had a say in it. And I'm kind of hoping that as a mayor I would have some say in it, maybe not as much as I would like. Anyhow, that's the thought process. I believe that it's got a lot of issues with it, shall we simply say, and I think we need to move on it. I think there are other factors in play which the council's dealing with, which we don't know all the moving parts, and I admit that openly, such as shared services, such as outsource of whatever it might be. I don't know what they're doing until it actually shows up, okay? But I would simply say, I would love for it to be an open process, so if you're playing with something, you can let the borough people know that, and they can kind of give you their opinion on it. Sir?
Will they have an open forum, open to discussion about the properties that are going to be available to purchase?
If we get in, then I can assure you as a mayor, I will hold an open meeting. I will invite people. I will require the powers that be to attend and answer your questions. I have said this a number of times publicly. One of the things that upsets me the greatest thing is after the flood, Larry Quitone was the borough council president and did an exceptional job bringing the community together. He had a meeting the next night over at the first aid squad. He had all of the borough directors and department heads and stuff there, and they had a fantastic open public meeting on what's going on with the water, what's going on with this, what's going on with that. What we're going to do is a fantastic meeting. I applauded him as the acting mayor because Steve was out of town at the time. Did a great job. I also admonished him publicly and in private about the fact that that concept did not continue. I really think that that's the kind of leadership we need for the borough, is to have the borough people aware of what's going on and what their options are and what their employees, because the employees of the borough are your employees, what the employees are doing for you. So you can ask questions. So to me, yes, win, lose, or draw. If I get elected, there will be a public hearing on it. Steve has mentioned, as have others, it's a council government, so I have to sway three of the 6 council people my way in order for my vote to count at all. Otherwise, I'm whistling by a cemetery, and I understand the concept. So, answer your question, yes. Any other areas that you have a concern about that you would like to discuss? Yes, ma'am.
Well, there are going to be mixed families in those apartments. Some could have 2 children. They're going to grow up. They're going to have cars, parking, schools. And schools. So where's that all, you know, that's going to just...
I understand your concept. All I can say is that prior development on the Wolfington side, we were talking in the neighborhood of 84 residential units that were going to be there. That then moved up to, I think, 112 was the top number for Wolfington before he threw in the towel. Okay, and what's the total number for the whole project now?
110 for phase 1.
Oh, no, the entire project. To what?
110 and 155. 265.
265. Someone said 265. You're right, 265. You're right. That's a hell of a lot of apartments. That's a hell of a lot of people. I don't know. It's not age restricted. Someone had asked that earlier and said, could it be age restricted? I don't know. But good luck to it. Yes, there will be an impact on the tax rolls. There'll be an impact on the school district. There'll be an impact across. Whether it's negative, positive, or neutral, I don't think anybody can predict now. Would you concur, Steve?
I would just say, and you know, I'm not a planner or anything, but when you're talking about 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments, usually those are on the low end of, when they have kids, they would be young kids. You know, by the time the kids are school age, that's when people move on and get their starter homes. So, yeah, but this is a, yeah, so what are you talking about, Deerfield, Westerly?
I'm talking about all the apartments by the high school.
Yeah, that's Deerfield, Westerly.
Oh, okay, thanks for the correction.
Okay.
All right, and if you drive down the block, all right, it's loud and clear that you have way more people per house than there should be. All those kids are packing in our schools.
I won't dispute that.
Right? I've even heard that there's kids graduating our high school that don't speak English.
You might want to take that up with the school board.
We do have 2 votes out of 9, I guess it is, something like that. We do have 2 votes out of 9, if that makes you feel better, okay? I'd like to wrap up by saying, yes, sir, step up.
JP, is there anything that we can do in town about the unregulated junkyards that seem to be expanding? You know, the town wants to make this a destination. You know, you go on Broad Street, we've got a major junkyard with just junk vehicles all over. You go to our post office and we have engine blocks and leaking oil drums sitting right there on the street by the post office. The AMCO transmission building is now a junkyard.
Okay, there is an ordinance that's out there. I understood they were trying to enforce it. I would simply say 2 things to you. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to walk with Milton, I think it was William Street, right off North Main Street, over to Railroad Road. And I was appalled to find out that there were mattresses and stuff thrown against a fence over there. It was becoming a trash heap. And I thought about it, and I said, that's because it's not that the public works people haven't seen it. It's that they're not picking it up because there is no sticker on the damn thing. So I'm committed, if I become mayor, every month to buying 20 stickers and going over to Kenny and saying, here's 20 stickers. This is what I want you to do. Your guys go through the borough and they see a mattress, they see a dresser, they see whatever the hell it is, tires on the side of the road. Put a sticker on the damn thing and come back and pick it up. Clean up the borough. It's ludicrous not to clean up the borough, okay? So, I mean, that's a simple one from my perspective. It's exactly what you're talking about. I believe we can do that stuff. I believe that's a simple fix. It cost me $1,200 a year. Hey, I'm willing to do it. I'm not from New York, but I'll give it a shot, you know?
So I have just some comments. One, I had seen a plan on the Planning Board Commission a while ago about redeveloping the waterfront. I think that would be a good thing to look into, to get some more rateables in this town, especially some small businesses. I have a friend at work who she was looking to move. And I said, oh, there's some nice homes near me. Look in Hightstown. She told her realtor, yeah, let's go look in Hightstown. She said, no, we don't take anyone to Hightstown. Taxes are too damn high. Now, if you don't think that doesn't affect everybody in this, when you go to retire, when you go to move, I mean, I can tell you personally, I moved in here in 2005. I've seen my property value drop by $50,000 on my home. And I've completely rebuilt my home. It's still not worth what I paid for it in 2005. There's probably many of you in here who are in that same boat. We need to somehow get the tax, you know, our reputation for high taxes is not helping anybody.
Thank you. One of the things I propose to do, or at least put forward, and then I'll turn it over to Milton and Jeannie for their last comments. One of the things I propose to do is two different things. So the first one is, they both deal with property tax. And the first one is, if you're going to dump 50,000, 100,000, I don't know what the number is, we'll pick a number. We'll ferret out a number. If you're going to drop that kind of money into your house or home to improve it, I don't know why we can't give you a reprieve for 5 years, 7 years, whatever the hell it is, on that percentage.
JP, you get one. 5 years.
See? How many people knew that?
One problem solved.
One guy. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If you do that, see, what a brilliant idea, huh? What a brilliant idea. The second thing.
I've done a lot of work in my home, and all I've done is pay more taxes.
There you go.
I'm telling you, I've been living in this town for 19 years.
There you go.
I bought a house. I didn't know. I didn't know.
Well, that's what the tax, in my opinion, that's what the tax assessor should be doing. Tax assessor should say, you just did this, and there is a program for you to be tax exempt for 5 years.
It should be the.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I've driven around this town so many times. I've seen some properties that people don't keep up, that is putting a drag on everyone else's property.
Yep.
And I haven't seen anyone that I know of get a summons about cleaning up their yard. The front yard looks like a junkyard. How does that's affecting my property?
I concur with you, and I think it starts once again, like I said, we need to clean up the place, we need to take pride in it, we need to encourage it. The other thing I want to work on, and this is something I really feel strongly about, are people who have been in the borough 40 years, 50 years, whatever the hell it is, who get to an age and they can't afford to live here because of the taxes. I want to try to develop a program that basically says, when you get to a certain formula, how old you are, how much time you've been putting in the community, we'll get a formula. When you reach that, I want to freeze your property tax, I want to cut your property tax in half. I want to do something like that so that you can, in point of fact, stay in your house until you die, okay?
Sorry to burst your bubble. JP, I'm sorry to burst your bubble on that, but there's something called the New Jersey State Constitution adopted in 1947 that forbids any of that kind of stuff.
Well,
sorry.
Thank you. Attitude-wise, how many people want to change the Constitution then, please? Thank you very much. Moving right along. Jeannie? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a home across from me, and one woman lives there, okay? She has 2 junk cars in her driveway at all times, and then 2 she parks on the street. I filed a complaint. You can do that. Send Dave Bell an email, tell him what's there, okay? He will come over, he will give them a summons, and he will follow up on it, okay? So she's already had 2 removed, now she's built up again, and I filed another complaint, so we just have to wait, you know, until it goes through the process, and then hopefully she gets rid of
we live here, we should take pride in this community that we live in, keep our homes up. Do the best that we can. Some people can afford it, some cannot. But cleanliness is cheap.
I have a neighbor, I don't know what this is coming from, who, when our street was redone and the borough put, you know, grass seeds down between the sidewalk and the road, for some reason he didn't like it, he ripped it up, and it's now weeds.
up to their hips. Now, I don't know if Susan Bluth and Dimitri followed up on it when they did their walking and, you know, went right by it, but hopefully they did. Or I guess I can send another, you know, email, but exactly right, I mean.
Okay, thank you.
Right, Jean?
Well, I'd like to thank you for all coming out tonight. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you got your questions answered. Milton, JP, and I will still be walking around for the next week. Hope to run into you. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in contact with us. And thank you for coming out tonight.
Well, yes, one second, team. First of all, I would like to thank the council members that are present tonight here, the former mayor that was also present here, another former mayor, Scott, over there. You know, I want to say something. I am proud that there is someone at the borough level trying to do stuff for the borough, and I support that, and I'm looking forward to work with you when we get in the office as a team, involve everyone, and also for you guys who attended tonight, thank you so much because you have shown me something that I really I'm for, and it's teamwork. Working together and moving forward together is better than one person pulling all that heavy weight by themselves. You're gonna get tired at one point. You may have all the good emotions, intentions of doing something, but if you're doing it by yourself, you're gonna get exhausted. But if we start grouping up together and we know what's missing, we know what can be done, let's work as a team. And again, I thank everyone here, especially those that belong to the borough office, the council members, and I see a few here. Thank you so much for your time. And Friday from at the tavern from 5:30 to 7:30, meet the candidates. Everyone is invited. There is one drink of your choice when you come in, and the most important date it's November 6th. And I also want to congratulate and give a shout out to Amon, who's been very active in this, and also Joe Talisa, who's being very active on the Democratic side. And again, this has nothing to do with a Democratic or Republican or whatever. This is a town effort. We need to come together. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.